Good morning and welcome back to Impact. It's my pleasure to be joined in the studio today by Tony Bussey. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Morning. Great to be here.
I thank you for accepting my invitation because this show is called Impact, and the fire that impacted thousands of Fort McMurray residents in a multitude of ways impacted you in, well, I'm going to say a completely different way. Yes. And we're going to talk about that today. And I know that there was sort of a media storm around your story several months ago.
Yes.
But for the listeners that maybe haven't heard of Tony Bussey, Tony used to weigh in at 567 pounds during the fire, or right around that time. And since then, there's been a dramatic change in his life. And I won't tell them how tiny you are now. We'll leave that for a little bit later in the show. But take us back, even before the fire, because I'm interested to understand how long were you struggling with a weight issue?
Well, I moved to Fort McMurray in 1999, and at that time when I moved here, I was still around, I would say, about 320, 330 pounds. But I was still able to do anything. Like I was out, walking. I used to deliver water, so I could do that without problems. But over the years, I would gradually gain weight. Didn't really notice it at first, but I remember one year, I think it was 2004, I came back from a holiday, and I would try to put on my clothes, but nothing would fit. Try to put my coveralls on at work, nothing would fit. And then it seemed like over the 10, 12 years from that even further, things got really bad to where I finally ballooned up to 567 pounds. And I'm only about 5'8.5", 5'9", so on my frame, that's a lot of weight. And
were you big as a kid?
I was. I was. I was kind of chubby and a bit bigger. But through high school, not too bad. I mean, I was still able to do stuff, go play baseball, things like that. But the last few years before 2016, it really ballooned up. It got way out of control. My biggest pair of jeans were a size 66, and they didn't fit anymore. So it's very, I don't know what the word is, but it's very humbling, I guess you can say, when you go into a big and tall store and they don't have clothes that fit you.
That's my next question. Like, how do you get clothes when you're that large? How do you go about doing it?
Well, I couldn't buy anything in Fort McMurray. The only thing I could buy here was socks, but I couldn't bend over to put them on anymore. Mm-hmm. So I would go down to either Red Deer or Edmonton, sometimes Calgary, and go to a big and tall store and hope they would have gym pants. Size 7X gym pants I was wearing, and a size 6X shirt. And that's all I had was I think it was 3 pairs of gym pants and 4 or 5 shirts, and that was it.
As you reflect back on a life lived as a larger person, what answers have you come up with as to the why?
You search for happiness. You search for something that throughout the day is going to put a smile on your face, because your life at that time, there's nothing to smile about. So that box of chicken wings, that bag of chips, those couple bowls of ice cream, chocolate bars, it was temporary happiness. When you ate that, all you felt was happy. But you also inside, you knew what you were doing was you were killing yourself slowly.
Yeah. But
you didn't care. You just, life was very hard to live. So before
the fire, on a normal day, when you were very, very large, what would you eat? Like, how much would give us a picture of what would an average day, and what would you be consuming?
Oh, I mean, like for supper, I would. Everything was fried, like fried food. Like you get up in the morning, you wouldn't have 1 slice of toast, you'd have 5 or 6 slices of toast. But once you were done, you would get into the junk food right away. It was a constant craving for junk food. You couldn't get enough. You know, instead of making a healthy lunch, you get fast food. For supper time, it was more fast food. It was just chicken wings. It was anything deep fried. There wasn't a day that went by where I wouldn't eat chips, or I wouldn't eat chocolate bars. I wouldn't eat junk food, some type. And I drank a lot of Diet Pop. I still believe to this day Diet Pop is probably the worst thing that you can have. In the quantities that I had it, I was drinking about 9-10 cans a day. And it was just constant. It was just a craving, constantly craving it. But every time I had it, you forgot about how big you were, and you just felt that little bit of happiness. But it was slowly taking away your life.
You shared off the air that when you're that large, it limits how you move around in the world. It limits how you get back home to Newfoundland.
Oh, yes.
It limits what you can do with your daughter.
Yes.
Talk about the fact that you could only get back to Newfoundland one way.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
The only way I could get back to Newfoundland was drive, and that was once every few years because you would have to take so much vacation off work that I could only do it once every few years. Because, like, even though it was possible for me to fly, I mean, I could buy 2 seats on a plane and fly, for example, if I had to. But when you land at an airport, now you got to rent a vehicle. Not all vehicles fit you. So if you get at the airport and they don't have a vehicle that can fit you, now you're stranded. You can't take a cab, you can't take a bus, you can't take anything. So I would have to drive. And the car that I had, I could barely fit into that. But at least I knew that once I had that vehicle, then I wouldn't be stranded. So I would only get home once every few years. So you miss out on a lot, right, with your family back east. And so my daughter lives in Lacombe. Later this month, for the first time, she's coming back to Newfoundland with me because we can fly. And I've flown home since. I flew home last October. Got in. There's not many better feelings than getting on an airplane, and you can put the tray down in front of you. It fits fine. You don't need a seatbelt extension. You can put the armrest down. A person that's getting on the plane is not giving you a weird look like, oh, I got to go sit next to that guy. You're just a normal person. And when you're obese, one of the things that you long for the most is to be normal, to do normal things, not to be seen in public and stared at. You're just one of the many people. So now my daughter's flying home with me end of this month, and she's going to meet my parents for the first time. She's 17, so it's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah.
Oh, probably be a few tears. I'm getting teary just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our guest this morning is Tony Bussey. Tony has lost an incredible 333 pounds since the Fort McMurray wildfire. We're going to go back to that moment when the change happened, the light bulb moment. Yeah. Before we do that, do you have any sense today, looking back, on what your body must have went through to have moved itself every day with that kind of weight on it?
I look back on it, and my mom was a praying woman, and I believe to this day it was a miracle that I was able to function at that size. I mean, I changed tires for a living, so it's heavy work. When you're going to work and you're too heavy to put socks on, so now your feet are in a work boot that you can't tie up on a cement floor all day. It's like somebody taking a sledgehammer and going against the bottom of your feet.
Wow.
Your knees would hurt, your back would hurt. I would get up in the morning, stand by my bed for about 20 minutes just to let the circulation go through. You wake up in the middle of the night because you're choking because so much weight is on your body. I mean that you can't get air, you can't get breath. There's a lot of things. I mean, I look back on that now. I could barely walk to my car without getting out of breath. I wouldn't be able to walk into this building without stopping on the way in to take a break. Now I can walk 10, 12, 15 kilometers and it's nothing to it. I love it.
Wow. Tony's life transformed on May 3rd. We're going to go back to that date when we come back. You're listening to Impact right here on 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back to Impact. It's a special interview this morning with Tony Bussey. Tony is a worker at Suncor. He's a tire specialist, and he used to be mammoth. He used to be 567 pounds, and sitting here next to me today, he looks the same size as me, to be honest. It's an honor to have you here. Let's go back to, the fire day for all of us has meaning, a deep meaning.
Yes.
But for you, it has a significant life-changing meaning. Take us back to what happened on that day that changed everything for you.
That very day, I'll never forget it. We were being evacuated from camp, and the fires were starting to rage up again. It seemed they were dying down when we got called back to work. But then within a couple of days, I remember that day, we were out at Suncor, and the skies got really black around 3 in the afternoon. It looked like midnight. So they decided to get us out of there, and that next afternoon, when we were getting evacuated, the buses showed up. And as an obese person, you hate being singled out. You don't like any extra attention whatsoever. But for reasons that I do understand, because it was a hot day, it was probably about 34, 33 degrees Celsius. I was in the lineup for the bus, and they took me from the back of the lineup and put me to the front. So now you got all these people, and they're staring at me, and I you can feel it. It's like, why is this guy going to the front of the line? Just wait your turn, basically. But I think what it is, they didn't want me at almost 600 pounds standing out in that heat and collapsing. That's the last thing they needed. So I understand, but I wish I never put them in that position to begin with. So they take me, and I felt really bad for having to go in front of the lineup. I felt horrible about it. And then when I got on the bus, they put me on the very front of the bus. There was an empty seat next to me. But I'm so large that I'm filling over into that seat. So now you look out the window, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. You see all of these people, stressed, sad, worried. They're waiting to get out, get to their families like I was. But now one other person, they got to wait because I'm too fat to sit next to. And that was enough. That was it. So they brought us up to Firebag, and then I had a 3-hour wait on the bus. So I kept thinking about that. And I couldn't get those pictures, those people out of my mind. Kept thinking, okay, now somebody's got to wait. At the time, you don't know how long they're going to have to wait. You don't know how bad the fires are going to get. So really, I'm putting somebody's life in danger. So the planes started landing as fast as they would fill up. More planes would land, fill up more people. So I got to the plane. It was the same thing. Got on the plane. I was too fat for them to sit anybody next to. There was an empty seat next to me. Somebody could have sat there. If I was just a normal-sized person, somebody could have sat there. But nobody could because I was taking up half of that seat. And I felt horrible. Felt absolutely horrible. And the whole time on the plane and on the bus, I kept thinking, this is enough. I'm 41 years old at the time. Missed out on so much. I mean, you're basically living on borrowed time at 567 pounds. Your body can't handle that stress forever. So I got on Edmonton that night, and that was it. I started right then and there, and I haven't stopped since.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the end of May. I always go by about May the 20th. I think that was the second evacuation, and give or take a day. I can't remember the exact day, but that's when I started, and I haven't stopped since.
Tony Bussey is our guest this morning. has lost 333 pounds since that day in 2016. We're going to talk about how when we come back. You're listening to Impact. It's a team effort of a whole bunch of different organizations, including United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, YMM Magazine, and all the folks here at 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back to the show. Our guest today is Tony Bussey. Tony works at Suncor as a tire specialist. During the whole fire episode of 2016, he had a life-changing revelation that he needed to do something to lose the incredible weight that he had been carrying for years. On the way over here, Tony, I was trying to create a visual metaphor in my mind.
Yes.
You alone equaled a family of 4.
Yep, pretty much, yes.
It's almost hard to comprehend, and it's even harder to comprehend how in the matter of 2 years you have lost 333 pounds. And I know that there are listeners listening to us right now that might be struggling with weight issues. How did you do it?
Well, all I did is I drastically changed my diet. I was horrible for sugars. I was horrible for junk food. I was anything that I could eat that was unhealthy. I ate, and my body was showing effects of it, not only by weight, but by skin condition. I mean, my forehead was getting almost black. My eyes were getting dark. But the wonderful thing about your body is if you give it a bit of help, it will help you. So, and what I mean by that is I changed my diet. So I cut out all sugars. I stopped eating bread. I cut out pasta. I eat very little rice. I cut out all junk food. I haven't touched a pop. I haven't touched any junk food whatsoever in over 2 years. And people will always say, well, you have to treat yourself. And I tell them, well, you can treat yourself, but it don't have to be with food. You give the body the proper nutrition that it needs, and it will help you. I treat it like an alcoholic would treat a beer. That's what I tell people. An alcoholic don't go and have a beer once a week for a treat. I stay away from it. The longer you stay away from junk food and sweets and sugar, the less you crave it to where you don't want it at all. I treat myself now by buying clothes, by going on trips, by doing normal things. That's the way I treat myself. I don't crave any junk food whatsoever. Don't want it. I could sit down in front of 20 people and watch them eat chips and chocolate. It wouldn't bother me. So, and what I eat great. I eat meats. I eat like chicken, fish. I eat veggies, salads, fruit, bacon once a week. So I eat great. I have chili at Tim Hortons. I'm a bit of a chili addict there, and I walk. I started walking, and I started walking just a little bit. I mean, when you're that size, just walking across the room is hard. Walking to your car, I couldn't walk only a few feet without having to stop and get my breath. And not only that, but your body would be in pain. But losing weight in the beginning was really difficult, but so was being obese. So your choices are, okay, if I stay this way, I'm going to be in pain. If I try to do this in the beginning, I'm still going to be in pain. But at least if you start your changes, you're going to see some hope. So that's what I did. I started walking 5 minutes, and I would gradually push myself 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. To every day it seemed to get a bit easier. Even being during the evacuation, like people will say, okay, well, you got to eat at a restaurant, so I got to eat something unhealthy. No, there's no excuses. Like you can go to like Swiss Chalet, and instead of having a double leg with fries and gravy, you can have a double leg, take the skin off, and have the vegetables instead of fries, no gravy. Now you just got a roast beef or a roast chicken with veggies, delicious. You know, you can go to another restaurant. You can have salmon, and you can have. There's lots of choices out there. There's no excuses at all. And I just started walking, and gradually the walking got longer. The food choices became easier. I find the longer you get away from processed sugar, the less you'll crave. I get my sugars through fruits and so on. So and like I said, I haven't touched junk food, not a thing, not a piece of chocolate, nothing in over 2 years.
What role did water play?
Water plays a big role. Water and like I'm a big coffee drinker, but I drink black coffee. I used to get triple at Tim Hortons. Now I'm down to black or half a cream, one or the other. That's it. And water.
How much water do you drink in a day?
I don't really measure it. I mean, I could always drink more, definitely. But the biggest thing I find is stay away from pop. And I stay away from any substitute sugars. People say that they'll use like aspartame and whatever else. Just stay away from it. You don't need it. And you will develop a taste. I mean, I went from triple to black. And after time, you'll actually start to like black coffee, for example.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
There's a quote by Robin Sharma that has served me incredibly well in my life, and it goes something like this. I hope I don't get it wrong, but it's the little things done consistently that make the biggest difference.
Oh, big time.
Talk about that.
Big time. Like it just, well, like for example, your diet. You cut out like the little bit of junk food, the sugar, the sweets, you make the choices like instead of having ketchup, put a little bit of mustard. You know, there's nothing in mustard. You can eat mustard, and that's what I use. Things like that. The walking. You start off small and you think, okay, here I am so huge. What's a 5-minute walk going to do? Well, a 5-minute walk today, a 5-minute walk tomorrow, a 5-minute walk the next day. Now you've walked 15 minutes. Before you would almost you wouldn't walk that at all. Now that turns into a half hour. That turns into every giant long journey starts with one step, and that continues. And I remember first when I weighed myself, when we were allowed back into Fort McMurray and went back to work, I had to use a scale at the warehouse. That's all that I could use. And I was down 30 pounds within a little over a month. And I had 100 pounds gone by September. Now your life is getting easier. Now you can bend over again to put socks on. So things like that, you're starting to see the advantages. It's just snowballed.
Yeah.
That 5 minutes of walking, that little step, like that quote you just said, turned into 100 pounds gone by September.
Tony, there are probably people listening right now who have tried everything under the sun to lose weight, and they've fallen back.
Yes.
We are almost out of time, but I would love to hear your advice to somebody listening who is struggling. What would you say to them that might inspire them to make a change that will have the impact that it had on you?
I would say stop looking for happiness in junk food. Stop looking for happiness in food in general. And realize that you can do it. I mean, I was 41. I was 567 pounds. I could barely walk. I was in lots of pain. A good day to me consisted of ordering junk food and lying on a couch. But we have to realize that you only get one chance of this life. How do you want to spend it? Do you want to eat yourself to an early grave, or do you want to get out and enjoy the beauty of it? That there is happiness out there besides in what we put on our plate. And when you start doing that, you don't look for happiness in food anymore. You realize that there's so much out there, that there is hope. If there's anything I can get to anybody, I've been there. I felt hopeless. I felt I've trapped. You get up every morning and wish you were somebody else. If I can do it at that weight and in that bad a shape, naturally, there's no surgery or nothing involved. It's just hard work and diet. Anybody can. I mean, I was 41, almost 600 pounds. Could barely walk 5 feet without losing my breath. And I did it. So anybody can. That's what I want to stress to people. It didn't cost me a cent. I didn't have to join a gym. I didn't have to join any special weight loss group or nothing. It was just watch what I ate and walked. And I do the same thing today. That's it.
Well, congratulations, Tony. I'm really excited for you and your daughter to
Thank you.
be able to go
Thank you.
home and
Yes.
meet your family for the first time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for sharing this story with us today. And I suspect that it will change somebody's life. So thank you for that.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you.
Tony Bussey is our guest this morning. He was 567 pounds at the height of his weight loss journey, and he is 333 pounds lighter here today. Thank you again, Tony.
Thank you.
This has been Impact. It is a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, who always make us look so good, YMM Magazine, and of course, none of it would be possible without our friends right here at 91.1 The Bridge.